Hello, this is for children's literature, Education 325, and this is from Raymond Diaz. So this is my virtual library. We're gonna start over here with the contemporary realistic fiction. Perks of Being a Wallflower, I feel like it's pretty necessary to be on there. Pretty big time novel at the moment that a lot of kids are reading, a lot of kids are talking about. Um, what I kind of wanted to do with the theme was books that a lot of students are reading, so that way it almost becomes like cool to read the book. It's almost like watching a TV show. It's like, hey, have you seen this TV show? It's like, no, have you read this book? And gets kids talking around the school and things like that. So a couple of things I have on here: The Catcher in the Rye, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Um, those two I think are really big. I think they both get kids reading, things like that. The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde was one of those. I would give it to a 17-year-old, and I wouldn't do it without their parents' permission. It's a pretty hardcore book that I found, but I enjoyed it, and I pictured myself being 17 and reading that book. So once again, as we go to the fantasy, same thing. I want kids to be involved in reading and talk about things. So The Hobbit, Harry Potter, Aragon, these are pretty classic books on here. I found that while I was doing this project, I found that I really channeled into like 17 or even like 14-year-old me at times, or even like 12-year-old me. And some of these books are just like, what would I be interested in? Because I hated reading books when I was a kid. And so a lot of these are just me figuring out if I hated reading books as a child, or if there's a child that hated reading books, what can I give them to get them started? And things like this really stuck out to me. So The Catcher in the Rye, The Hobbit. I remember when I first read The Hobbit, I was probably maybe 16. And I read it in a whole day. I never read a book like that before in an entire day, and I just absolutely loved it. I'm not even a big fantasy guy either, but I just thought it was great. Um, yeah, the informational bibliography books, what I tried to do here is just get some kind of fun books for kids. So, The Invention of Bubblegum I thought was pretty fun. And then What If No Bees Existed? And then the big one was Martin's Big Words. I think kids really need to learn about Martin Luther King as much as possible. So, the Diverse Population book, try to do Asian, Mexican, and Black culture in these. So, Bluest Eye, Good Earth, and Nino Wrestles the World. Nino Wrestles the World is kind of actually like it's a bilingual book, but I think that it's good for kids that are trying to learn Spanish and things like that, to kind of get started on that. Once again, poetry books, things that everyone's talking about: Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul, The Odyssey, and then this little Random House book of poetry is just all those classic poems that are all in this book. So, um, yeah, things I got out of the assignment, I just um, started considering kids like a lot more. Started considering what I would give the kids in my classroom, and what I feel like they needed, and what I feel like they needed for me personally is for them to talk about books, discuss books on their breaks, read books on their lunch breaks, and just become really interested in what these books have to offer. Um, so yeah, just kind of giving them. The Giver is probably one of my least favorite ones on here. Actually, I didn't like Ender's Game either. I kind of liked it. It's a cool. I think it's a cool, like, I don't. It's a cool concept. And then Fahrenheit 451 is an absolutely phenomenal book that I really enjoyed, even though it's sci-fi. So, yes, pretty much all these books I would consider using in a classroom, except for The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. Also, The Person Being a Wallflower, I would kind of be pretty picky about that one as well. Um, but the rest of them, for the most part, I would use um, at any point with any kid. Even The Bluest Eye, there's even like a rape scene in there, but I think it's a pretty important novel. I think Toni Morrison's an important author. So yeah, that's my library. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.